It is rare that we get an opportunity to bring the lead analyst from Housing Wire onto the show to explain to us the direction of housing, not just in 2026, not just in 2027, but all the way through 2030. We're talking about housing prices, inventory, mortgage rates. You all do not want to miss this episode. I don't care if you are a loan originator, if you're a home buyer, a real estate agent, or just someone who owns a home. This is knowledge and information that you need to have, you want to have, and we're going to spoon feed it to you. Check this out. They don't teach this shit in school, but they should. Welcome to the Loan Officer Podcast, hosted by me, Dustin Owen, one of the most influential people in the mortgage industry, along with my friends who've lived it, built it, failed at it, fixed it, and scaled it. This is not a show just for mortgage professionals. This is everything I learned because I became a mortgage loan originator. This is the Loan Officer Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and a very special guest. This guy really needs no introduction, but I'll do my best. He hails from Irvine, California, where he lives with his tortoise and 3 cats. He is the lead analyst for the one and only largest publication in mortgage and housing. That's Housing Wire. You can see him on CNBC. I call this guy a friend. He is one of the people that I don't miss when he podcasts. I don't miss when he writes articles. He is the one, the only, Logan Mohtashami. Logan, welcome back to the Loan Officer Podcast.
Absolutely. And AKA Chart Daddy's here to bring some knowledge, and that's what I do.
The Chart Daddy. How did I leave that out in my loud, obnoxious intro? You are the Chart Daddy.
Yes, yeah.
Is that a self-proclaimed, or did someone actually bequeath that to you?
So in one of our podcasts many years ago, Sarah joked that I have a lot of charts on my desktop, and I just said, oh yeah, I'm the Chart Daddy. And it took off, and everywhere we went, everybody kept on saying Chart Daddy, Chart Daddy. And Clayton Collins, the owner of Housing Wire, hated that name, did not want me to call Chart Daddy. It didn't matter. Everywhere we got t-shirts and mugs and hats, and it just took off.
I love it. I need to get a Chart Daddy t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Yes. In fact, how about this? We were just telling Logan about the TLOP cruise, and I was like, oh, 2027, we have to get Logan on the boat. We should get like, a t-shirt that says like Chart Daddy lives here.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a TLOP
the Chart
shirt.
Daddy cruise, yeah.
The Chart Daddy cruise. Well, I so have appreciated getting to know you over the years, and I am a huge fan, not just of what you and Sarah do in terms of the Housing Wire podcast, but just a fan of watching you on stage, a fan of you as a human being. If you haven't had a chance to follow Logan, make sure you do. And if you see him at a conference, go say hi. You're super approachable and always one of the flashiest dressers.
Absolutely. We make economics and nerdy stuff fun, but we try to make it look appealing as possible.
Yes, and you work for my favorite trade publication, which is Housing Wire. I jokingly, I joke with Clayton, and I let him know, I say, hey, look, my partner Stephen, Mike, and I, and Mark, all we're doing is building TLOP up to make it his next big acquisition, right? We're probably only about 18, 24 months away, Clayton. Yeah, you might need to go to your investment banker, start raising that cash now, homie. Mm-hmm. But what a fun collaboration. Y'all, something big is happening at Lower Mortgage. And if you're paying attention to this industry, you've probably noticed. In just the last month alone, Lower has added some serious horsepower. We're talking top producers representing over $350 million in volume. These aren't rookies kicking tires. These are heavy hitters who've done their homework and made the move. That should tell you something. On top of that, Lower just acquired Movoto, a top 5 real estate portal with over 150 visitors just last year. Before that, they brought in Neat Labs, and now they're launching Lower OS, a next-gen mortgage platform that's cutting loan delivery times down to 10 days. This isn't a company standing still. Lower doubled their volume last year, and they're projecting another 40 to 50% growth this year. The best in the business are taking notice, and they're voting with their feet. Here's the reality. The companies that are going to win in this market are the ones investing in technology, building real infrastructure, and competing at scale. Lower is doing all of that. They're going head to head with the rockets of the world, and they're built for originators, not against them. If you're a producer who wants to be a part of something that's actually going somewhere, not just surviving, but growing, this is the moment. Lower mortgage, the momentum is real. So let's jump right into it. Walk us through. So you and I are recording this. We're at the FAMP conference. So it's August of 2026. So we're 7 months into 2026. The year hasn't gone exactly how we all anticipated, but let us know what we should expect through the end of the year when it comes to housing.
Actually, I think housing in general has outperformed for a few reasons. Number one, 2022 was the fastest sales crash in the history of America. And
faster than 2007,
yes,
2008?
Because 2005 is when housing peaked. It took 3 years to get down to the bottom in 2008. We did it all in 12 months. So we're working from a very low base, but the problem with the housing market in 2020 to 2022 was active inventory was at the lowest levels ever. And population and jobs and everything are at the highest levels. Those are not a very good condition for housing because prices can escalate out of control. This is why early in COVID, I was like, guys, don't worry about the forbearance crash bros. Worry about prices escalating because it's very hard to get inventory up in America now with all the credit data and how things have changed. But now, for a few years, inventory is growing, price growth is cooling down, wages are outpacing home price growth. All these things are very, very healthy for the housing market. So I love 2025 and I love 2026 just for that. It's starting to look very normal to me. And it reminds me a lot of the early 1980s when home prices were accelerating faster in the late 70s. Mortgage rates went from 8 to 18%. Housing was less affordable back in the early 80s. But over time, inventory grows, price growth cools down, housing develops a base, and we start growing again. So because we have such low levels of sales for multiple years, the backdrop for housing, not only this year, for next year, and everything else, even with the tariffs, even with the conflict, even with the Fed getting hawkish, housing data's holding up better. Thanking hugging mortgage spread, of course, always. Yeah. Mortgage spreads are the hero of the year, but
they are.
It's a much healthier housing market than, let's say, what we saw during COVID. Even though there were sales much higher and growing, rates were too low, inventory is too low. All that does is kill future demand. All we're doing right now is creating future demand.
So right now, 2026, even going back to 2025, we are creating future demand.
We are creating future demand because inventory is up, price growth is cooling down, wages are outstripping home prices. If that had happened during COVID, we would have been in such a mess now, but it was the exact opposite. So this is a much healthier housing market going out, not for this year, just next year, but for many, many years to come. And that's the history of housing economics for decades and decades and decades.
So if you're a loan originator tuning in, what I'm hearing you say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't always compute and comprehend perfectly, but anything I'm dealing with today is for my future benefit. So,
yes.
So you anticipate things gradually warming as 26 becomes 27, 27 becomes 28, and eventually we get to 30, because as things sit now, and as I understand it, wages are growing and they're outpacing the growth of home values, which is what we need in order to get affordability back in check, or at least closer to being back in check.
Housing is doing better with rates a little bit more elevated because housing got a little bit more affordable, right? So that's a function of really what happened in 2024, 2025, and 2026. But it's much healthier now. Now, inventory is only up 0.85% on a year-over-year basis, but we are at levels closer to normal where this would have been a problem in 2020 or 2021. Even in 2023, when mortgage rates went from 6 to 8%, we had low levels of sales. Home prices still grew 6% that year. You know, that's not a healthy housing market. You don't gain an advantage. But what we've seen in 2024, 2025, and now in 2026, you gain an advantage and you create a better base for growth, right? We're still going to get a growth this year, even with the Fed being hawkish, the conflict, and rates going up. It's much different now than, let's say, a few years ago. The foundation is being built like it traditionally does.
Out of curiosity, and this wasn't on my script when I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting Logan on the show, I'm super excited, but I also want to take advantage of this opportunity. Can you go back to 2019 and remember what was that year as it ended and we entered into 2020 before COVID? What were you seeing as a data analyst for housing at that standpoint?
You know, what was interesting is rates had gone up in 2018. It was 5% back then, and people were, panicking and everything. And housing demand was slowing down like it does, but it wasn't. We had a very slow housing market in the last decade. But when rates started to go lower toward the second half of 2019, all the housing data started to break out. Now, for my work, going back 15 years, I always said years 2020 to 2024 is a once-in-a-lifetime demographic patch. You have the biggest housing demographic patch ever in history of the millennials, being ages 28 to 35. We've never had it bigger. You rent, you date, you mate, you get married. 3.5 years after marriage, you have kids, you buy homes. That was the period in time where we'd have the biggest demographic patch ever. The only problem was inventory kept on falling toward 2019. Housing data broke out. Actually, not a lot of people know this, but housing data broke out before COVID hit us. Housing starts broke out, new home sales broke out, existing home sales. Then COVID happened. The problem is 2020 had no inventory growth because half the country wasn't even walking outside their house. So there's where I said, oh boy, this could be really bad. This could be too many people chasing too few homes. But 2019, going toward the end, was outperformance. In the first 2 months of 2020, not only the housing market was outperforming, the economy was getting better, and then COVID hit us, and then the rest is history.
And when you say outperforming, we're having more home sales than we anticipated? Or
yes,
homes were appreciating at a greater percentage?
Homes were selling, housing starts were beating estimates, and home prices, the bad part was home prices were starting to accelerate.
Before COVID.
We had about 8% year-over-year growth in home prices, which is not normal. But it was happening. Then COVID happened, and rates went lower. And, it was chaos after that.
So let's talk about rates today. We're coming off of July, which July saw probably some of the highest mortgage rates of the year. Mm-hmm. Then we got another spaz tweet, and looks like the spaz tweet may end up being a truce, opening up the strait. Who knows? But I'm curious, where would you prognosticate, project, analyze rates end on average once we get to Q4 2026?
Here's before the year starts, I never forecast mortgage rates. I forecast the 10-year yield and where Fed policy and where mortgage rates could range. So going into 2027, I thought 5.75 to 6.75 would be the range.
So
right?
far, you're right there.
So far, it's been there. This was pre-conflict, of course.
Yes.
But to me, the labor data was actually getting better first, which is not good for rates if the Fed wants to be more hawkish. Then the Federal Reserve got more hawkish in general because the labor data got better. Then the conflict happened. And then it just became chaos after that. But even with all that, for the most part, we've been under 6.75%. Mortgage spreads. Mortgage spreads is the hero. Because if this was 2023, rates are 8%.
Yeah.
If it was 2024, we're 7.75.
But in those years, we had the worst mortgage spreads in history.
Yeah, well, it was the last time it was that bad was actually in 1986. Mortgage spreads were 5.94% in May of 1980.
Wow.
That's how you got 18% mortgage rates. They were also negative that year too. There was a lot of drama that year, but because mortgage spreads have compressed, they've allowed rates to stay in the range, and that's part of the forecast. I always highlight mortgage spreads so much at the events I talk to and on our weekly tracker, that kind of compression can keep rates in a more comfortable range. You get more sellers that are home buyers. Everybody starts to do better, and as long as inventory is up and price growth cools down, affordability gets better. The backdrop is so much more healthier. This is not a glass half full. This is a glass full. Ice cold water out there on a hot sunny day. That's what you wanted to see to make this work, not only this year, but for years to come.
That's what you're calling this 26, 27, 28.
27, 29, 30. Okay,
this run that we're getting ready to go on. Logan Mohtashami said it. He said it multiple times. We heard it here today. That this is not glass half full. The glass is full. It's freaking hot. It's humid, and it's ice cold water.
When you have record low levels of sales for years, but your households grow, your wages grow, households form as well. You're building a better base. 40% of homes in America don't have a mortgage. Most home sellers are buyers, but housing tenure has doubled. It doubled in the last decade. So the turnover rate, doesn't matter what mortgage rates are, 3.25%, 5, 7, people living in their homes longer and longer. But when you create a better affordability backdrop, when you're working from such low levels, all the way is up. We don't crash anymore in home sales. Home sales have been around 4 million for the existing home sales market for years. But I always tell people,
loan officers, if 2026 is going to be your breakout year, this matters. Most originators don't struggle because of rates. They struggle because they don't have systems, structure, or accountability. I'm Coach Christy with TLOP's Originator Coaching. Originator Launch is a 16-week small group coaching program designed to help you build a real business, not just close the next loan. You'll get weekly live coaching, proven scripts used by top producers, real accountability, homework that actually moves the needle, and 2 private one-on-one calls with your coach. This program is capped at just 10 originators, so the attention is personal and the results are real. This isn't a course you watch. It's coaching you execute. If you're ready to stop guessing and start building with intention, apply now. Spots are limited, and once they're gone, enrollment closes. Register today.
we have near 5 million total home sales again, like we did in 2023, 2024, and 2025. The peak in the last decade was near around 6 million. And that's with affordability better. That's with rates at 3.25. So you're not that far off from getting from normal and having inventory grow, price growth cool down, households form, wages rise. These are the things that will set you up. And I'm saying this knowing that housing will outperform in a recession because rates go lower like it always does. But the backdrop is just so much better now. If home prices were running at 6% this year, I wouldn't be having this talk. Yeah. Because I would say we gain no advantage for the future. But the last 2.5 years, we're gaining an advantage. That's the good base. And that looks a lot like all the housing cycles we've had since the 1960s.
So a couple key points before we wrap up. One, I just want to slow down for a minute. For those that are at home taking notes, the spread that Logan talks about is the spread between what is the 10-year yield and then what's the 30-year bond yield, right? The MBS.
Yeah. Well, the 10-year yield and 30-year mortgage rates. The difference, a lot of times people just think you take the 10-year yield and you add 2% to it, and that's the mortgage.
Which that is a great rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's a good rule of thumb.
Okay,
it's
good,
normal,
not great. Good rule of thumb.
It's normally in the last few decades, it's been between 160 to 180.
Okay.
But it got to 3% in 2023. We had the Silicon Valley banking crisis. The Fed was still hiking rates. All that created the highest spreads, how we track it, going back to 1986. 1986 was a credit problem issue as well. But now they're almost back to normal, and they still have a little bit ways you can go lower.
Like 2.3, 2.4?
I mean, the spreads, the lowest point was 181 this year.
We got below 2.
Yeah, we got.
Okay.
Now the spreads, you could calculate it different who you quote on mortgage rates. We do the Freddie Mac, and because we like to create these long-term charts. But 2% last week. So those things matter in creating a more healthier housing market. And what you want people to list their homes, sell their homes, buy another one, get the inventory channels working. We just had to get inventory up and price growth to cool down. Nothing was going to function right. And because of that, it happened. And now you got better spreads. The backdrop is there. Remember, we have 5 generations of home buyers. Silent generation, Gen Z is buying, the baby boomers, millennials, and the greatest generation of all time, Gen X.
Yes.
Out there.
We are.
So you got 162 million people working. It doesn't take much to move the needle from here for the next few years.
Cool. So listening to Logan, it's not all about this year or even next year. It's about the next 4+, 5+ years. Yeah. You're bullish.
Yes. This is the time where home sales do not fall much, but they build a better base. And again, history has shown us this is where now. If let's hypothetical, let's say I knew a recession was coming. If I knew a recession was rates go lower, it's outperforming, like no equivocation whatsoever.
Do you see a recession coming?
Recessions, we still have no recession data in the data lines. I know a lot of people talk about recessions since 2010, but none of the labor triggers and growth triggers that we've seen in traditional recessions post World War II have occurred yet. But if they did, housing outperforms by a lot. And just like in the early 1980s, nobody thought affordability was worse. Nobody was going to buy a house ever. Both the recessions in the early 1980s, home sales went vertical. right out there. COVID,
Yes.
right? As soon as people thought, okay, I'm not dying, guess what? Home sales went vertical out there. The only time where it took a little bit longer for home sales to grow was the Great Recession because we had a lot of underwater mortgages, right? I don't believe in the mortgage rate lockdown, but not having selling equity is a problem. You know?
Yes,
So
it was.
so we're in a much healthier spot. But this only works if inventory had gone up and home prices growth cooled down.
And that's what we're seeing.
That's what we're seeing.
And I always love one of your favorite leading indicators for recession is watching construction jobs.
Construction job, not a lot of people know. We call it the cheat code, but traditionally what happens before every recession in recent history, residential construction workers lose their jobs in a normal downtrend that's easy to spot. And then jobless claims start to load up. So the rule of thumb for me since 2022, do not go into the recession talk until jobless claims head up to 323,000. On the 4-week moving average, we're around 200,000. So the labor market is fine. We're also a much older country, right? So the baby boomers leave, right? They need to be replaced. So it's harder to have very high unemployment unless you really have a Titanic economic event. Japan's a good example. 40% of their population will be dead by the end of the century. They sell more adult diapers than baby diapers, right? So we still have a lot of young workers, replacement consumers and workers. So our economic backdrop, it's not fair how good the U.S. is set up for the rest of the decade versus China or Japan or Europe out there.
Well, I love hearing that.
Yes.
As a proud American, I love hearing that. We don't have time for this. Next time you and I get together, I would love to touch this subject, but spend 30 seconds on it. Silver tsunami. Is there one coming? The boomers start selling these properties that they have 1.5 to 2 of. Do we then see a drawback in home prices? Do we then see a gluttony of inventory?
So I love the silver tsunami because I've been fighting this since 2008. Because why? The first baby boomer hit 62 in 2008. So from 2015 to 2025, that was supposed to be the silver tsunami because all the baby boomers are going to sell all their houses or downsize to millennials who couldn't buy avocado toast and they can't buy homes. And active inventory would get to 26 to 32 million. We had 240,000 single-family homes available for sale in March of 2022. So now by 2035, death will happen, right? So when baby boomers dying, what they give to their children in probate or anything, that'll be a more interesting dynamic. But we're still going to have over 170 million people working, at that time frame. So can home sales really go below? What are the kids going to do? But that's more of a death story than, let's say, an economic story.
And it's a decade away.
Yeah. It's a decade
away.
away.
It's a decade away. All right, so rapid fire. All right, I'm going to 3 different groups of people, and I want you to give them your best 60 seconds.
Okay.
You get a chance to talk to a home seller right now, knowing what you know. What are you telling a home seller about the market and about the future market?
Be realistic to where the market is in your city, in your state, in your zip code. That's why you want to follow Housing Wire. And if your real estate agent says give sellers credit for mortgage rates to come down for the buyer, do that because then you could sell your house faster. Don't be the I'm going to wait here, eventually I'll get things, because other agents are starting to figure out that the builders are at 2019 sales levels. That's like 1 million more existing home sales right there because they're offering sub 6%. We have over $38 trillion of nested equity out there. Be clever with how you sell your house to the home sellers. Don't be that person waiting. And if you're not going to price it right, at least give seller credit.
Perfect. To the home buyer, go.
Home buyer, it is your time right now. It wasn't your time during COVID because you had too many people chasing too few homes, the hungry hippo game, back then. So take advantage of that, be a little bit greedy in asking for credit, but also don't get too crazy, because demand is, not crashing. It is slightly growing out there. So be a little bit realistic, but it's like the movie Goonies. It's our time, it's our time right now. So home buyers, take advantage of that. When rates go lower, it's a little bit difficult in that environment because you're going to have more buyers in the pool. But right now, take advantage of this inventory growth and home sellers some of them having a harder time selling.
If you're a licensed originator who's closing loans, but you're not consistent, this is for you. If you're brand new or just looking for motivation, trust me, this is not for you. Most LOs don't need more information. They need structure. They need proven processes and somebody to hold them accountable. TLOP's Originator Coaching gives you weekly live coaching, scripts top producers actually use, and step-by-step business systems you can implement immediately. Not someday, we're talking day one. You're not watching videos alone. You're executing in real time with other originators who take this seriously. Right now, you can try it free for 2 weeks. That's 2 full weeks for free. You'll sit in on live coaching calls. You'll get access to the frameworks and see exactly how top producers run their business. If it creates clarity, if it creates momentum, or even if it puts wins on the board, you keep going. If it doesn't, no worries, you can cancel. No pressure at all. Click the link, start the 2-week trial, and finally, build this like a business, not a side hustle.
Here's a new phrase for homebuyers that Logan and I just came up with. He didn't know that we did it, but listen to this. Homebuyers, be realistically aggressive.
Yeah.
Be realistically aggressive. Be realistic. You're not going to steal a home. You're not going to steal a property, but you can be aggressive with your negotiation and drive and subsidize some interest rates by negotiating properly with sellers. Perfect. Last audience, my audience, your audience too. Mm-hmm. The mortgage lenders, the loan officers, the mortgage brokers.
I was in LO for 17 years. My father's still a mortgage broker. Realized that, the mortgage industry just went through the Great Depression in terms of not only volumes, but people being laid off. You have less competition and more people working in America. So take advantage. For those that want to take advantage, there are very successful loan offers out there because there is enough demand. But now you have less competition out there. This is the time where you really want to set yourself up, because when demand starts to pick up and other people start to come in, you need to be better than them now so you don't give those people a chance to get into the market. And while you have less competition right now, don't lull on that note. Use it to yourself to make yourself better going out for the next few years, because when rates go lower, you're going to have more people come back in. You don't want to be somebody that didn't take advantage of the time right now.
Awesome. Logan, people want to follow you. What's the best way to find you, to hear you, to read what you write?
Housing Wire Daily is one of the top business news podcasts in America. Sarah Wheeler and myself go on the show 4 times a week. We try to make it fun and nerdy and very enjoyable to listen to. Housing Wire, all my article is you can be found there. Housing Wire Intelligence is now we opened our data books for everybody to look into their own area. If you really want to nerd out, follow me on Instagram. My name, Logan Mohtashami, because I literally don't sleep and just look at charts and provide 24/7 live updates on everything going on, because that's what I do. That's what the Chart Daddy was designed to do.
I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful that we have this. If you tuned in for the first time because you're a friend of Logan or a follower of Logan, my first name is Dustin. My last name is Owen. You can find me on LinkedIn. That is where I'm the most accessible. I double dog dare to reach out to me and have me not respond within 24 business hours. Typically, it's closer to 1 or 2 business hours. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, do ourselves a favor. That's ourselves, you, me, Logan, and everyone else tuning in. Give us a 5-star review. That's how we remind the rest of the mortgage industry that content like this does not suck. When you watch us on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. It's how you get notified, not just when we drop a new podcast episode, but I'm talking about all the other content that we drop. The DO Show, Coach's Corner, Mortgage School, Talk Mortgage to Me, all free resources designed to help shape the future of mortgage lending. He's Logan. I'm Dustin Owen. You've just tuned in to Loan Officer Podcast. That's all the time we have for you today, but we do look forward to catching you on the next episode. Peace.